Every scream started somewhere. Let's meet the storytellers who turn fear into a festival and simple shivers into seasonal sensations. This is Working the Fright Shift.
Clock into Working the Fright Shift, the gateway between imagination and fear, with your host, Ted Doherty.
The lights are dim, the door is locked, and you're listening to Working the Fright Shift. Today's guest is the extremely talented Carly Caramanna, a mind that truly understands the anatomy of fear. Before we turn the key on that conversation, let's begin with this week's Horror Blueprint.
The Horror Blueprint, the art behind the fear.
You hear it before you see it. 2 notes. Just 2. They rise from the depths. They are steady at first, then faster, closer, closing in. You hold your breath. You grip your seat. And before you even see the monster, you feel it. We all know John Williams as the mastermind behind some of the most iconic, soaring melodies in film history. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, E.T. He is the guy who makes heroes sound unstoppable and dreams feel limitless. But here's the thing. Williams isn't just about the inspiring and magical. He's got another skill. He knows how to terrify us. Think about it. Jaws, Close Encounters, the villains of Star Wars, the pounding chaos of Jurassic Park, War of the Worlds. He is the guy who makes fear sound real. John Williams, the king of cinematic wonder, who also happens to be a master of suspense, dread, and terror. Well, let's be honest. Without sound, fear wouldn't be the same. You might be asking, wait a minute, John Williams is a horror guy? Well, most people think of Williams and immediately hum the Star Wars theme or the Indiana Jones adventure fanfare. But have you ever really thought about how much tension, fear, and anxiety he builds with his music? This guy made us fear the ocean, the sky, and even the darkness within ourselves, all through sound. Think about John Williams's Jaws theme. It's terrifying, and it is ridiculously simple. There's no fancy orchestration. There's no dramatic sweeping melody. Just 2 notes, E and F, da-dump, playing back and forth like some relentless predator circling below. Now, I could geek out about the music theory here because, well, I was a music major. I played jazz and rock and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I know way too much about classical structure. So I'm not going to bore you with all that stuff. But just know that the minor second interval, those 2 notes, they create dissonance, which makes your brain go, uh-oh, something's not right. It's a musical trick that's been used for centuries to create tension, but Williams took it and made it iconic. Why does it work? Because it taps into 3 primal fears. Anticipation, anxiety, that pulsing repetition makes your heart race like hearing your own heartbeat before something bad happens. Unpredictability. The tempo speeds up right before an attack, making it feel chaotic and out of control. Then, of course, the primal fear. It's simple, it's relentless, and it makes you feel hunted. Famed composer Hans Zimmer even called it, quote, the most terrifying thing ever written with just 2 notes, unquote. And he's right. Have you listened to Williams's score for Close Encounters of the Third Kind recently? Go back and check out track 8, Barry's Kidnapping. Put on the headphones, turn off the lights. It's unsettling. Unlike traditional resolved harmonies, Williams builds tension with atonal, dissonant chords. It feels off and makes the whole alien encounter seem mysterious, eerie, not entirely safe. Even the famous do-dee-doo-doo-doo, the 5-note alien communication motif, it sounds hopeful. But everything around it is laced with weird, unsettling harmonies that make us question whether these beings are friendly. Williams leans into the fear of the unknown, and it totally works. Now, we all love the majestic theme of Jurassic Park, right? You know, the one that makes dinosaurs feel like these graceful, ancient wonders. But when the dinosaurs start chasing people, Williams flips the switch. Percussion pounds like thudding footsteps, signaling something big is after you. There's the shrieking brass that mimics screams, making the panic feel real. Then there's the dissonant strings. They create tension tighter and tighter, never letting you breathe. Silence plays a role too. Williams lets it linger just long enough before smashing you with full-blown chaos. If you want to hear this in action, listen to the raptor attack from the original soundtrack. That thing is pure terror. And Williams went all out for War of the Worlds. The score is aggressive, unrelenting, full of panic. The brass-heavy orchestration, dissonant clusters, unpredictable rhythms. They mirror the absolute destruction happening up on the screen. It's messy, it's terrifying. It makes the alien invasion feel inescapable. Williams has a way of making villains feel larger than life. His secret, borrowing techniques straight out of horror. Emperor Palpatine's theme, that low, chanting choir, makes him sound like some sort of cult leader, dripping with menace. Darth Vader's Imperial March, that is musical intimidation in its purest form, pounding, unstoppable. The Nazi theme in Indiana Jones, harsh brass fanfares plus military-style rhythms, they equal instant oppressive evil. What about Voldemort's suite from Harry Potter? Low basses into screeching strings, aggressive, mysterious, but they still have that hint of magic. Williams doesn't just write villain themes, he makes you feel them. John Williams, he isn't just the guy who makes heroes sound heroic, he's the guy who makes fear feel real. Jaws convinced us that there was a shark lurking just below. Close Encounters made aliens feel mysterious and maybe not so friendly. Jurassic Park made dinosaurs terrifying. War of the Worlds turned music into chaos itself. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Harry Potter gave villains their unmistakable sound. Williams proves that sound isn't just a part of fear, it creates it. His compositions make us shudder before we even see the danger. Without John Williams, would terror sound the same? Or would we just sit in silence waiting for the horrors to arrive? His music is not just accompaniment for these films, but he is an architect of fear itself within the fabric of the horror blueprint. The horror blueprint reminded us that fear isn't just engineered, it's felt. Now let's sit with someone who doesn't just love living nightmares, she understands them. Carly Caramanna is a theme park aficionado whose career has taken her from the bustling streets of New York City to the haunted corridors of America's most iconic Halloween events. In addition to being a freelance journalist and host of the Attractions Magazine podcast, Carly has been on various newscasts, interviewed as an expert, and has covered events all over the world, from theme parks, cruise ships, you name it. Whether she's sipping a blood bag cocktail at Knott's Scary Farm or biting into a pizza skull at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights, Carly brings a sharp eye, infectious passion, and a whole lot of fun to every experience. With her upcoming book, The Unofficial Disney Parks Retro Cookbook, set to debut in fall of 2026, Carly continues to enchant readers with her insider knowledge, not just about theme parks, but Halloween theme parks as well. With one of the coolest jobs in the world, Carly is this week's Fear Architect.
Fear Architects, crafting worlds of terror.
Welcome to Working the Fright Shift, Carly. Thank you so much for doing this. I have you all to myself for this brief period of time. Thank you. How are you doing?
I am so thankful to be here and so happy you asked me. This is one of my favorite subjects that I feel like I could talk on and on about. And I have to say, I just love the name of your podcast too.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much. And I'm so happy that you're here. Carly, I have questions for you. You ready?
I am always ready for questions. Lay it on me.
Okay, here we go. First one. Do you remember your first haunted house experience, and what was it like, and did it spark your love for these different Halloween events?
Yes, well, it kind of all goes back to my family. I am a child of the 80s. And when I tell people this story, they're like, wow, this is a little crazy. I was 3 years old. I'm the oldest child. My mother was pregnant with my little sister. And every single day I watched the same movie. And, it wasn't a cartoon. It wasn't, a kid's movie. It was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I was 3. And I asked my mom, I mean, this has been like a joke in my family for so long. And I asked my mom again about it last night as I was getting ready for this. And I was like, what did you think? And she's like, I was first scared of the movie because you were watching it and I was like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. I'm emotional. She's like, I watched it so many times that it didn't scare me at all after it. So my lore goes back to being 3 and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which then intertwines with theme parks. And luckily, my parents were not only horror people, but theme park people. So I was 5 and I went to the very first Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios Florida, which was then called Fright Nights.
Wow, I can't believe it. Your parents sound like my kind of people.
Yes,
Horror
yes.
and theme parks. So, well, I have to ask, what was that experience like for you going to that first Fright Nights?
You know what? I don't remember a lot of it, but I do vividly remember I spent most of the time with my head in the back of them. So I wasn't actually looking in the houses, but I loved being there, if that makes sense. I wasn't getting scared. I was like dipping my toe in my own way, which was being there, feeling the energy, but just having my eyes essentially closed. But I loved it. And, since then I have been hooked on theme park Halloween events.
You sure have. You've
Yes.
been to a lot. You've been to a lot of different events through the years. I'm going to ask maybe a tough question. You have visited all of these different events throughout the years. What are your top 3 haunted houses at any theme park, and what makes them stand out?
Oh, at any theme park. Okay. This is really, really tough because every year my mood changes, whether I'm into like IP houses or if there's something just personally that I love. I have to say, Not Scary Farm, I think just overall is my favorite event. And that's because I'm such a theme park history nerd and just the colorful history that's there. If you choose to look for it. I mean, you don't have to know anything about the history of Knott's to go and enjoy the event. But I think all of the original houses at Not Scary Farm, it's also the only event where I actually get scared. I think I'm so desensitized. And there's something about that thick fog. And I have to say, whenever Sarah Marshall makes an appearance in a Knott's house, that is going to be one of my favorites. I'm sure you agree.
Yes.
And then one of my other favorite houses in recent years was at Halloween Horror Nights, Universal Studios Hollywood, and it was the Killer Clowns house. So I am just that is probably just based on my preference. I that was one of my favorite movies in rotation as an 80s kid. I just love that. I love the kitschiness. I love the colors. And then, God, I loved last year at Universal Studios Florida, there was the Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I think also that's like a fan servicing one for us that grew up on the Ghostbusters. And whenever we kind of have that nostalgia paired with a house, and it was just so beautiful, the set design with all, the frozen elements. And I had so much fun in that house last year.
Those are three fantastic choices. I love it.
Yes.
I love it. All right. Now, speaking of horror nights, for people who have never been to Halloween Horror Nights at either Hollywood or Orlando, but they are thinking about it, it could be overwhelming trying to navigate a first time trip to either one of those events.
Right.
What general tips could you give to a newcomer attending one of these events, trying to avoid some rookie mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, the popularity of Orlando's event has grown tremendously, but especially within the last, I will say, about 7 years. And I think that has to do with the brand is now mainstream, and that's thanks to really popular IPs. Stranger Things kind of blew the lid on Orlando in 2018, I believe, was really the year where I started to feel like, wow, this event is huge. And you're seeing all these people that maybe had never been to an event. It's their first time, which is a wonderful thing because we're not meant to gatekeep horror. It's for everyone. So with Orlando, it is a beast to tackle. And I have been so many times, and I still make like a game plan each year with my family. The event goes usually really late, like 2 a.m. If you can if your body can last from opening to close, my suggestion is get there early, knock a few houses out, rope drop, be that person. Then spend the rest of your night maybe going on attractions that are open normally in the day, trying some of the food. I mean, these events have evolved into bona fide horror food festivals. And then if you can make it to the end after 12, and I'm talking this is without express, without paying for a rip tour, usually the juice is worth the squeeze if you can make it to the end, if you're not so exhausted, because you're usually able to walk into some houses without having to wait. And that's kind of my Horror Nights Orlando on a budget. I will say each year, my family and I, we do try to splurge on a family rip tour. And if you are going to spend the money towards Express, my theory is spend just a little bit more and you're going to have a much better experience. Express is really expensive. So if you break down the numbers just a little bit more, you can go on a rip tour. And it doesn't have to be the private buyout tour like you see a lot of, the celebrities and stuff doing. They have just group assembled ones where you go, you're paired up with other people, and you get walked right to the front. These express lines in Orlando, especially not so much in Hollywood, can be 45 minutes. And time is money. So if you can splurge, cut back on some other stuff, make that. I mean, I have had incredible experiences. The hosts are so knowledgeable, and there's nothing like being able to be literally walked right to the door and let it.
You stole my next question, which was
Yes.
sell us on why RIP Rip Tours are so amazing. And so thank you for sharing that.
Yes,
Really
yes, of
love it.
course. Yeah, the prices do increase each year. So I will say we used to do like the fully private one. Now we've kind of found you get basically the same experience if you do the public one, we're paired with other people. And if you're a large group, it's going to be most of your friends anyway. So yes, it's a big financial commitment, but it's really worth it. They'll let you redo houses. Last year they just kept letting us go into Ghostbusters over and over and over again. And I'm kind of like, if I'm making the time to go and I'm not, if you can only go once per season, I know a lot of us are lucky where we get to go a bunch, so it doesn't really matter. But if you can only go once, try to splurge.
Absolutely agree with you. Similar question, but
Yeah.
turning our attention toward knots. For
Yes.
somebody wanting to visit Not Scary Farm for the first time, what are your tips for that?
Yeah, I mean, I would also buy the fast lane for that too, if possible. I think the thing with Knott's is the reason it's my favorite event is atmospheric. There's really nothing like it. The amount of fog, the amount of streaked actors, we don't really get that in a lot of places. I know, Universal is known for their, scare zones and whatnot, but I really feel that at Knott's Scary Farm, where I have the fog is so thick. It's really hard to explain it. There's no other park that does it like that, where if you didn't want to buy, a fast lane to cut, for the houses, again, you could wait till later in the night and usually get in easily. But I have found there is one of the, my favorite haunt events to just kind of like hang out in. Take in everything, walk through the scare zones, eat the food, have a drink. That's kind of the way I approach it there. It is just soak it all in because it's such a vibe.
You mentioned food, and you mentioned it
Yeah,
earlier regarding horror nights. Food is a huge part now for these
right.
Halloween theme park events. What is the most outrageous or delicious Halloween themed treat that you've had at one of these Halloween theme parks?
Oh, I will say in recent years, so I got to give a shout out. Hershey Park Dark Nights is the newest event that we have in the theme park Halloween scene. And it's quickly become one of my favorite. It's a more intimate event. It's less hectic, but they've really kind of grown their own culture where they already kind of have their own like icon characters. And food is always a big part of, Hershey Park in general. And they had these little like pizza bombs last year. They were almost kind of like their version of pizza skulls or like a mini stromboli. They were one of my favorite things. I love, especially with everything that Universal Orlando does, because their food and beverage program just in general has grown like leaps and bounds over the last decade. And they were kind of leading the charge in making these horror events, food festivals, and it all goes back to pizza fries. Those were kind of like the first ever iconic horror related, food item. Of course, we have blood bags at a lot of these events now too, but Universal Orlando especially is always a spot where I'm always keeping my eyes out on what to eat. We had that little marshmallow s'mores from the Stay Puft Man last year of Ghostbusters. That was one of my favorites. They also do some like really weird things. The Carnival dog, which was just a really crazy hot dog. So I like how it's a nice mix over there of like just really good food and then some crazy stuff that you're like, why is this together? But it somehow works.
A couple of parks also have a lot of different food offerings as well as several different types of offerings, which is Oogie Boogie Bash,
Mm-hmm.
as well as Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. They offer different types of fun for a Halloween event. What's your favorite Halloween moment at a Disney park and why?
It is hands down Oogie Boogie Bash. That is the only Disney After Hours event that, with all of my fiber of my being in my heart, I will say go. I go every year at least once. There's just something about it. It is, still family friendly, but it's a good little stepping stone if you want to test how your kids do. It may be something a little bit spookier, but it's not scary. The level of immersion when you go through Villains Grove and you have that immersive light experience. I love the parade. The food is good. And I'm not a traditional character meet and greet kind of gal where I don't wait in, a line for 3 hours. So the treat trails at Oogie Boogie are really fun, how you can interact with the characters without making that massive time, commitment. And I'm really excited because Mickey's very not so scary over in Magic Kingdom is also going to be testing that kind of idea of, doing the casual character meet and greet. But without a doubt, it's Oogie Boogie Bash. Every year I tell everyone, I feel like I really get my money's worth when I go to that event.
I totally agree with you. And
Yeah.
well, these events are family friendly, and we know a lot of parks across the industry have kind of pivoted to more of a family friendly event.
Right.
What's your take on these different family friendly events and how do they compare to traditional haunts?
Right, absolutely. I think a good example is Tricks and Treats, which the Cedar Fair parks do. I've been to a bunch of different ones. It's great because this is included in your ticket. So I feel like that's another really big factor. These Disney ones If you go during the day, you're getting the Halloween decor, seeing some characters, trying some food, but it's not included in the ticket for the full effect. So with tricks and treats, great example, included in your ticket. It's a lot of fun, and you don't have that risk of what if you bring your kid to Oogie Boogie and they have a meltdown and you just spent $1,000 and you have to end your night short. So I feel like they're great ways to get involved. And the same with Hershey Park. They also do a family friendly element of it that they can enjoy, and it's included in your ticket. And I think that's so important because there's no way around it. Going to any of these events is, a small fortune. So it's really like a lot of decision making and a lot goes into it. But I love the family friendly events and what they offer.
I do too. I think they're fantastic and they are just a different flavor compared to
Yep.
the scary stuff. Now, if you could create your own haunted house, what would the theme be and what kind of scares would you want inside?
Oh, you know what? I always go back to my favorite haunted house of all time, and it was Terror on Church Street. I don't know if you're familiar.
I
That
am.
was one of the other gateways to my horror fandom. It opened up in Orlando in 1991, and that was kind of the first real permanent year-round theatrical haunted house. And I loved how, I believe it was 2 stories, 20 different showrooms, and every scene was different. You had Leatherface at the end chasing you out with a chainsaw, you had Poltergeist. And I think my dream haunted house would be something like that, where there's a totally different experience. We hit a bunch of different fandoms in there, whether, the Poltergeist people are seeing that, there's some creepy toys, we're walking through a meat locker with a bag swinging. I feel like just kind of like a greatest hits. And that includes all of our favorite special effects. And you can put it all in one big house and make everyone happy. And again, that's Terror on Church Street. I would recreate and bring back something like that because I miss that so much.
I wish you could do that. That was a fantastic haunt.
Oh,
Great call
so
on
good.
that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So you have seen the evolution of these Halloween events over the past several years. What trends are you noticing in how parks are approaching the scary season?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they're finally realizing that this is their cash cow and a good way to, if you think about it, September, October used to be shoulder season in the theme park industry, which is even crazy to comprehend now. I mean, obviously everything has changed. Summers are dead when they used to be busy. And I think one of the ways that I love, because I'm just such a sucker, is good merchandise. And every single park is getting better at reading the audience and what we want. And really, I feel seen a lot of the time with the merchandise they've been coming out in recent years. You're wearing the Mills Diane shirt, which is
Yeah.
iconic. One of the scare zones I am most excited for at Orlando this year. But I feel like they're really understanding their fan base. And that might just be because there's people on staff, maybe in merchandising, that are fans themselves. And you have to be in those shoes to kind of know what people want. And I mean, that's really exciting. And I spend every year way too much money, but I want it all.
I do too. I agree
Yes.
with you on all of it. Just a couple more quick questions and we can wrap
Yeah.
it up. Tell us about your upcoming book. I want to hear all
Yay.
about it. It's a big deal.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I have always wanted to write a book, and theme parks and history specifically are my favorites. So a couple years ago, I was sitting which is really funny, at Universal Studios Hollywood City Walk, the Bubblegum Bar, having a drink with my friend. And I had just found this document, and it was a full log menu of every single restaurant that was at Walt Disney World in 1981. It was kind of like an employee handbook. And I'm going through and I'm like, oh, I remember this restaurant. Oh, I don't remember this. I'm like, God, I wish I can go back in time. And my friend that I was with was like, wait, we can. Let's write a book. So we came up with this idea. It is called the Unofficial Disney Parks Retro Cookbook. We brought it to the publisher HarperCollins. They loved it, and we signed with them earlier this year. So it is exciting. I'm just through the moon. It's coming out October 2026, which is a long time away. But as I've learned quickly, it takes a long time to do the book process and photo shoots. and whatnot. So I'm just really excited. And I know so many people love Parks history, especially Parks food. So I feel like this is a great kind of mashup of a lot of things that we all love. And it's going to be really visual. We're going to do, a full photo shoot with our publisher. So I am so excited.
Congratulations. It's a
Thank you.
huge deal. And October 2026 is going to come up very fast.
You are right. That is what I hear, is that it does come up much quicker than you anticipate. You've written a book, it is just a total like labor of love and a roller coaster of emotions for sure.
Absolutely, but enjoy every moment. This is the fun part of it, of all the research and putting everything together. So again, congratulations. I can't wait to see it. All right, one final question for you.
Yes.
You are throwing a haunted dinner party. What's on the playlist and what is the centerpiece dish?
Oh, and I would love the centerpiece dish to be something that looks like maggots, because whenever I see a maggots created dish, Parks have done that. I feel like that would be a beautiful centerpiece, just like overflowing. I'm not sure how we would make that, but I love the look of it. And you know what? I throw on like the Spotify Halloween party playlist, which has everything from just, like Ghostbusters, to Backstreet Boys, just kind of like all upbeat, fun music. I mean, it's kind of lame, but I mean, I love it. And once August hits, I have that playlist on like every day as I work. So I'd have that, and I have a maggots themed dish in the center.
That sounds so disgusting as far as that centerpiece, but I do love all of it. Carly, where can people find out about you and follow your amazing adventures all across this wonderful planet of ours?
Yes, I have a website. It is adventuresbycarly.com, and on Instagram at adventuresbycarly.
Carly, thank you so much for working the Fright Shift. We've just explored the intricacies of terror with our fear architect, Carly Caramanna, and now a different kind of journey begins. These haunts have a history, and their lingering whispers continue to steer my creative instincts today, as you'll find out in this week's Echoes of the Past.
Echoes of the Past. The origins of scare experiences.
The misty origins of Halloween. We're tracing its roots from ancient Celtic rituals to the billion-dollar spectacle we now celebrate with costumes, candy, haunts, and on and on and on and on. So, we rewind the clock way back, over 2,000 years ago, to the windswept hills of ancient Ireland. That's my roots. The Celts celebrated a festival called Samhain. It's spelled Samhain, Samhain, but it's pronounced Samhain, marking the end of the harvest and the beginning of the dark half of the year. It was believed that on the night of October 31st, the veil between the living and the dead grew thin. Spirits could cross over, and the world was momentarily shared by both the living and the departed. To protect themselves from these wandering souls, villagers would extinguish their hearth fires, gather around massive communal bonfires, and don costumes made of animal skins and heads. These disguises weren't just for fun. They were meant to confuse and ward off malevolent spirits. Long before pumpkins lit up American porches, turnips were the original jack-o'-lanterns in Ireland and other Celtic regions. During Samhain, and to protect themselves from the roaming spirits, they carved grotesque faces into root vegetables, primarily turnips, but also beets and potatoes, and placed embers or candles inside to create creepy lanterns. These lanterns served two purposes. They were both protective talismans and guiding lights. The frightening faces were meant to ward off evil spirits, while the light helped people navigate the darkened countryside. The tradition is also deeply tied to the Irish legend of Stingy Jack, a trickster who was doomed to wander the earth for eternity with only a hollowed-out turnip lantern to light his way. This folktale gave rise to the term jack-o'-lantern, originally referring to these spectral lights and later to the carved vegetables themselves. But going back to those early days of Samhain, in addition to the glowing turnips, there were offerings of food and drink that were left out to appease the dead, and druid priests performed divinations, reading omens for the upcoming year. Fast forward to the 8th century, as Christianity spread through Celtic lands, the church sought to absorb pagan traditions. Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as All Saints' Day or All Hallows' Day, and the night before became All Hallows' Eve, eventually shortened to Halloween. But how did this mystical pagan ritual make its way across the Atlantic? The answer lies in the 19th century during the Great Irish Famine. Waves of Irish immigrants brought their customs to the United States, including Samhain's echoes, bonfires, costumes, and tales of spirits. In America, these traditions mingled with other European customs and began to evolve. By the early 20th century, Halloween had taken root in American soil. The practice of guising, children dressing up and going door to door for food or coins, morphed into what we now call trick-or-treating. The phrase trick-or-treat itself was first recorded in North America in the 1920s. Costumes became more elaborate, and instead of turnips, Americans began carving pumpkins, a native fruit far easier to hollow out. And the candy? That came later. In the post-World War II era, with sugar rationing lifted, candy companies saw an opportunity. By the 1950s, individually wrapped sweets became the go-to treat, and Halloween night became a candy-fueled rite of passage for kids across the country. Today, Halloween is no longer just a night, it's a season, a $11.6 billion industry in the United States alone. We spend billions of dollars on costumes, yard displays, haunted houses, theme park attractions, and of course, candy. It's a time when creativity runs wild, when neighborhoods transform into haunted wonderlands, and when fear becomes fun. As a writer and director for Halloween theme parks, I find myself constantly inspired by this rich tapestry of tradition. My Irish ancestry connects me to those ancient bonfires and masked dances. And every time I create a haunted maze or script a chilling narrative, I feel like I'm extending a legacy, one that began with Samhain's sacred fires and now flickers in the glow of jack-o'-lanterns and strobe-lit scare zones. Now, I realize this is just the tip of the iceberg and all of the details that outline Halloween's rich history. There's a couple of great books on the subject that have really influenced me that I've not only referenced for this episode, but a lot of my own work in the past. The first book is Trick or Treat by Lisa Morton, and the second is Halloween, An American Holiday, An American History by Leslie Pratt Bannatyne. Both Lisa and Leslie are huge inspirations of mine. They've both authored several books on Halloween, and so these are just a couple for you to get started if you're interested. Halloween is more than just a holiday. It's a living, breathing story, one we get to rewrite every year. And I, for one, am honored to be part of that tradition. Whether I'm dreaming of glowing jack-o'-lanterns on neighborhood porches, creeping monsters in haunted houses, my times as a young trick-or-treater discovering the magic of this holiday, or creating nightmares for countless theme park guests every year, it all boils down to this one holiday that generations have celebrated for over 2,000 years within the echoes of the past. And just like that, Our shift comes to a close. Huge thanks to our fear architect, Carly Caramanna. Within these stories is the blueprint of fear itself. How we face it, how it transforms us, how we create it, and sometimes how it sets us free. If you liked what you heard, do us a favor and tell a friend to tell a friend. Give us a good review, 5 stars, and help spread the word. Thanks for spending your nightmares with us. I'm your host, Ted Doherty. Beast wishes, and until we meet again, it's officially time to clock out of Working the Fright Shift. Working the Fright Shift is written and produced by Ted Doherty. No portion of this recording may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written and express permission of the producer. All opinions expressed in this recording are solely those of the individuals and do not necessarily reflect the views of the producer or affiliates. For more details, visit www.workingthefrightshift.com. Copyright 2025, Ted Doherty. All rights reserved.